you for your time and for sharing your beautiful, amazing Beau birth story. I'm a bit excited.
Good alliteration.
We're excited.
Yeah. The beautiful birth of Beau, or however we want to do it.
Love all the bees.
Love the bees. Love the bees. I thought we should maybe just start with like a little sort of, I don't know, explanation about how we all ended up here, like how I'm here, like what happened, what was the beginning of your journey in pregnancy together, like how did it all begin?
I took you to dinner.
That's right. Yeah. That's where it all began.
Yeah.
I think when I fell pregnant, I didn't know anything about birth, pregnancy. I sort of was going in pretty blind, and I said to Ned, I really want to do a course together. I really want to educate myself. I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could, and I think you've got time to do that. And I was really excited to kind of delve into pregnancy and then also birth as well. And I came across She Births on Instagram and started reading about the course, and I loved how it brought together lots of different schools of thought. I didn't know what kind of birth I had, and I felt it wasn't a very judgmental approach, which I liked because I didn't really know what I wanted. I sort of wanted to learn first and then maybe decide what we wanted to do after that. And then we reached out to you, and that's how we first connected.
Yeah, that's right. So did you have any concept of what birth looked like before? Like, what did you think it was going to look like before?
The scene from 9 months.
Yeah. I think it was pretty Hollywood.
Yeah, the Hollywood, like medicalized kind of experience and stuff like that.
But Deb's approach to everything in her life is to, especially when it's something that's can be confronting or even for some people scary, is to research it. And that's her way of dealing with that uncertainty or that scare. Sort of.
The prep.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's perfect way, right?
So
knowledge
we were fully
helps.
Absorbing it. Yeah, knowledge is her power to sort of, overcome that.
Yeah. And you did the birth education at Dr. Morris's as well?
Yeah, so they have a series of 3 classes that covers everything from a normal birth, a birth that may have complications, breastfeeding, caring for your baby when you get home. So we did that 3-part course. That was 6 hours. And then we booked in to do the She Births course, like focusing on the birth and learning more about the birth.
And because a lot of people will ask, like, why would you do 2 courses? And why would you choose something independent outside of a hospital system? Do you have an answer for those guys?
I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And I felt that She Births was so targeted, and everything I was looking at and engaging with I thought was really interesting, so I wanted to learn more. But then I thought that the service that they offered at Dr. Morris's was great, and I thought there was no harm in doing both. And some things we did learn twice, but then in other ways the courses are so different. We definitely learned a lot from both.
Yeah, how did you find it doing 2 birth education courses, Ned?
I got my purple cross for that. No, I think even if you only pick up one thing, and you see everyone's got slightly different schools of thought, and you may connect with one school of thought, or you might, you find common themes across different teachings. And for us, it was just all getting more and more comfortable with the process we were about to go through, and then all that fear and apprehension sort of began to sort of subside the more informed we were.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. And did you find pregnancy a good journey, fun journey, hard? Like, how was it for you guys?
Pregnancy was pretty amazing. We had a really good run, I think. We were so excited to fall pregnant. I think we walked in with a very positive outlook to everything because it's something we had planned and we really wanted. And we were already mentally hoping to go on that journey, so I think we just felt super grateful as soon as we found out that I was pregnant, and then that sort of started a very positive note into the pregnancy. But I felt pretty well most of the time, and I loved learning about every stage of the pregnancy that I was in. Google was definitely being overused from me, but we had a pretty great journey, I think.
just miss sushi and things like
Yeah.
that.
Which we're now like
Which we're now doing lots of sushi.
Exactly.
filling up on now.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah, beautiful. And so did things change when we did She Births, when we did that education? Do you think your possibility of what birth could be kind of shifted from perceptions,
Absolutely.
expectations?
I think I always thought, well, I didn't want to have a birth plan the whole time. I think I was pretty open to let's just see how things go. And then after doing the course, I learned, well, we both learned so much about what actually happens in the body when you go into labour and during birth, and the chemical reactions in the body and what that can do for you and what that can do for your baby. And I think it definitely did change the path that I had wanted a little bit, having learned how amazing the body is and what actually happens chemically, you know, all going well. But I think that definitely made us rethink what we wanted for the birth, and then also definitely made me want to work with a doula and pull together a birth team, which is not something that I had really considered before, to get the result that we really wanted.
It gives you the best, I think it's always a proportional exercise, so it gives you the best chance of getting the result, but sometimes things don't go a certain way, and having that team, I think, gave us the best chance of getting to where we'd ultimately like to get to. But if we'd come up a little bit shorter, if we'd gone down a different path, you know, we just would have gone with that. And I think the amount of times we said to each other, oh my God, the body is amazing. I can't believe that the body does this in order for it to do that. And, you know, whether it be, you know, ligaments relaxing or, you know, your baby getting coated in, you know, as it comes out, and and, you know, oxytocin with the kissing and the massage, you know, just all these things that gave you tools to navigate what I think can be a very scary, or just, it's a complete unknown. You know, everyone else, I think we talked about this, in other cultures, they have been around birth as part of sort of, you know, that sort of tribe or tribe mentality, whatever the case may be. But for us, we were sort of coming in with a very low knowledge base. So we managed to get all these tools, and obviously your help as well, Nadine. So it gave us the best chance. We got a great outcome in the end.
Because that's something we should say, that Kez, your mum, was in birth education as well. Because people often ask me, oh, can I have my mum along as a support? Like maybe she could be my doula. And I'm like, well, if you want her along at the birth, she should do the birth education as well. And how cute was she? We don't have her here today, but like she was like, oh my God, you're so lucky, Deb. I wish we had this information. You know, it was a big processing for her.
Mum loved learning about the birth education. I think her experience for me and my brother's birth was so different.
30 years ago.
And she was blown away by how much knowledge we now have, and also the choices that we can make. That it was really amazing having her a part of it, because I definitely wanted her to be there as a support during the birth.
And that's what we want, ego-free mums as well. And your mum is like the perfect person to be there. She was so generous, and we'll talk about the team. Like let's talk about the team now, because like what do we all do? Because everyone's like, why did you have so many people at your birth? Did you give birth at home? No, we didn't. You know, like, so what was everyone's role for you, do you feel, as the labouring woman or the woman going into birth?
A lot of friends and things that I spoke to when I was talking about our birth team would just laugh at me and be like, oh my gosh, Deborah, of course you have to assemble a team for everything. But I definitely feel like it's such a huge thing, birth, and if you can have a team and it's something that you want, why not go in with that support? You know, at work, I have teams to support me. I can't do everything. And I think it's the same for this with our experience. But everyone was so busy.
We couldn't have done it one man down, or one woman down, or one man.
It's crazy how much everyone definitely had a role. And I think Mum had almost thought, you know, once we'd made the decision that we wanted to have a doula and we'd decided to work together.
That she would sit in the corner.
Yeah, Mum sort of thought, what am I going to do? You know, what am I to do? But there's so much for everyone to do, and on the day we didn't have 1 second free. But you know, Ned is so he's such a support to me in everything. I obviously wanted Ned to be with me the whole time. And then Mum, I knew I needed her just emotional support. I needed her presence purely just to help with whatever may come on the day. And then we really wanted your experience to guide us all on what was the best thing to do in each moment and at each stage of the birth. And I think that...
Like a PT for birth.
Birth PT.
Set up the station.
Yeah, exactly.
F45 for birth.
And I think once we had that all in place, my fear immediately eliminated quite early on in the lead up to birth. I think the unknown was a bit, I wasn't scared, but I was more apprehensive, like what is this going to be like? And once I knew that you were going to be there and that I had Ned and I had Mum, I felt that fear kind of melted away, and I could trust that we would be okay with whatever would happen, and we'd feel supported.
Yeah. And that fear also manifests itself physically within your body, and probably creates barriers to where you're trying to head. But I think also Deborah's someone that emotionally is very, well, obviously with me as her partner and her mum, and and also now the relationship that we have with you, Nadine, she's someone that emotionally does rely on people, and because otherwise I think it can be a very, you can feel a bit alone. You go into the hospital, hopefully your partner's there, maybe your partner's not there, and you meet a midwife that you've never met before, and all of a sudden you go through this huge, moment in your life. But if you can have, whether it be your auntie, your grandma, your cousin, whoever is your person, or a doula in this case as well, I think you've got to have those people there to lean on.
Yeah, support I think makes you feel safe, more safe.
Yeah, and that's what we really need for birth. You need to feel relaxed, comfortable, and then during the event you need to feel so safe, so held, so cared for. Remember we had that thing, she's got to look like a woman at the day spa doing a really strong yoga class.
Wonder if I look like I was at the day spa.
Well, that's why we had to buy new scrunchies, but
the scrunchie didn't.
But you just need to be cared for, and like you say, we were just passing the baton, like whatever you needed, rest of us would step back.
Yeah.
Ned was your rock. I think Ned is like the number one rock.
Babe.
Hashtag daddy doula, rad dad, the whole lot.
You were amazing.
You were like really in that water, almost labouring with her through every contraction. You were a prune.
Well, I can't believe it when I think about it. You were so much more involved than I had actually imagined. It was so amazing.
Because I didn't know where, I sort of didn't want to set myself any expectation. I'm like, okay, well, the great thing about having Nadine there is she can sort of personal train me through this, touch there, rub there, hold, whatever. And then just in the moment you get completely caught up in it, and you sort of, you
definitely rose to the occasion.
That's right. You just go where you're needed, right? You totally
whatever and wherever that is.
Yeah. And if that means like holding your bladder for 4 hours because you're lying in the bath, or for the third pair of boardies and undies going through that, I
didn't even get to the boardies. It was just straight in with
straight in with the undies. Lucky you had those. It's all right. It's good.
Not
it's
the
good.
Superman boxer shorts.
No. It's cool. And so I suppose with that elimination of fear, we spent a lot of time doing prep. We did our yoga before. We had more chats, doula meetings and stuff like that. Did they all help, you think, in the lead up and all
Absolutely. I actually was really surprised how much time we spent together in the lead up to the birth. I think when we decided to go down the doula path with you, I didn't really realise how much prep we would do in the lead up to the birth, but that was so important and really just got me in this zone. And I think especially the last maybe 2 weeks we were seeing each other so much, and we were talking about how I was feeling and the birth, and we were kind of physically prepping with the yoga, and I was sort of in this full-on place that I would never have got to without spending that time. I felt really kind of ready and prepared and excited. It's sort of like I sort of shut down one part of my normal day-to-day life and went into this different zone in the lead up to
trance almost.
For a while too.
You were. And that was slowly like it feels so weird and new. And even though you might learn about it in education, when you're in it, it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
And you can resist it, but you just lent in. And I think I was just there as that like help guiding you back there. It's perfect, it's perfect. You've forgotten what the sacrum is, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Frontal lobe shutting down.
Everything was shutting down. I couldn't even I'm like, what is the sacrum?
Yeah.
At this moment, like my brain isn't working.
Yeah.
I think I got infected with a bit of that as well, because I'm like, I can't remember that either. I'm going down the baby brain path.
I know. Well, I think we do. It is. It's like all smelling those pheromones. But yeah, the science tells us now your oxytocin increases and so does yours. Everyone's is going up, and that's why we do what we do, right? Just to hang out in your oxytocin bubble. No, not quite. Not quite. It's not just about that. Yeah. It's still there. It's still there. So that's beautiful, all this prep. And I want to talk a lot about, the labour, go through the labour story, because it's a really, really good one. Really, like all birth stories are great, but this one in particular, I'm just really glad that you were so competent to go through a long pre-labour, because some people, that 0 to 4 centimetres, that long firm cervix coming up all the way to 4 centimetres, that period of time can be unmissed, or it can be a really hectic week, or it can be arrive at the hospital and get induced time, or it can be so many things, but people often get really stressed and go awry. But you just kept your calm throughout it. So tell us how it sort of happened. How did you know you were in pre-labour, do you think?
I had my baby shower on the Sunday, and we ended up having Beau on the Thursday night. And then after the baby shower...
Timing by Beau.
Great timing, Beau.
Yeah.
And then after the baby shower, I had the best day, and it was so fun. And then I got home, and there was a lot going on in the house. We had the fire alarm going off for 2 hours, and it was this weird kind of, I was all over the shop. And then about 2 hours after being at home, I was like, I have been having what I felt to be kind of a contraction-y feeling for the last 2 hours, sort of coming and going, and my abdomen was really tightening. And I thought, that's weird, like, wonder if this is anything. And then I sort of sat down and thought, oh, maybe it will go away. And then it just kept coming, and I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to labour? What's happening? This is so exciting. And then I started timing it, and then it sort of kept going for a number of hours, maybe 5 or 7 hours that night, and then kind of died off. And I think I was timing it and thought, am I going into labour? It was this sort of unknown, exciting place. But obviously that was pre-labour starting, and that had continued for however many days, 4 days from that night, and it was really on and off. And I'm so glad I had you to bounce off what's going on here. Is this labour? Obviously it wasn't labour, because I wasn't in a huge amount of pain. It was just more I needed to rest through that whole process. And I went into this kind of weird zone for a number of days where I basically was in bed most of the day trying to sleep, and then I'd have bouts of these kind of waves of tightenings and sort of that period pain feeling, and it would go for maybe 7 hours, and then I'd think, wow, is this about to kick into this next phase and labour's going to start, and then it would just sort of drift away again. So it was definitely a limbo place. Sort of at first I thought, for sure I'm going to go into labour today, and then I sort of started to realise, hang on, this is potentially going to go on for a long time. I need to write it out. I need to be sleeping. I need to be eating properly, and that's advice that you gave me too. And Ned was so supportive in that time as well, because he sort of let me just go away. I spent most of the day lying down and resting, and you weren't judgy of that either. We just sort of let it happen and pace it out.
And were you getting bloody shows as well throughout that as well?
Yes, lost the mucus plug. That was a very exciting moment.
Over a long time as well.
And then we had the bloody show, and it was sort of over, I think I lost my mucus plug the Thursday before he was born, so it was a week between that and actually Beau being born. But then during that there was bloody show, more mucus plug. It was definitely paces throughout the days that made me feel like the labour was definitely progressing or coming on, going to be coming on soon.
And I think I came here on Sunday night. Did I come here on the Sunday night? because remember we said like Sunday nights, it's a common
Yes,
night,
and
it's
it was
close
a
to full moon, but you
moon.
are only 37 weeks.
Yes.
37 plus 1 day.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like,
And I think after your baby shower, that was obviously a big day emotionally, or just being on your feet with all your friends. And so there was probably an element of tiredness as well. And, and I think what you said before about trying to sort of build up your energy stores and your sleep and getting ready for that next stage. So that was, basically, because it could have happened quicker, but that 4 days you were just sort of, like you're preparing for a marathon, you were just resting up.
that's right. And you were doing work. Yeah, you were building up, but you also, in those rest times, the cervix was doing its softening and ripening and thinning. It was like, do all the work as much as you can while you're sleeping or watching rom-coms or bouncing on a Fitball. Go outside if you feel it, watch that sunset, you know, have your eggplant, whatever.
Raspberry leaf tea.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think during that pre-labour time, once I realised, okay, this is pre-labour, this has been going on for a while now, I was really trying to do all of those things to relax, but also kind of kick things into the next stage, because I was thinking, how long can I have this pre-labour and actually not wear myself out? Even though I was resting, like it's still quite, even mentally, you're in this zone of like in limbo, what's going to happen next. Yeah, it was quite a weird few days actually now in hindsight looking back.
Yeah, it's quite otherworldly. You're stepping between the two worlds. And so we got acupuncture here at home, 2 sessions with that. Did you do the osteo as well in that time? No.
You'd done it before.
No, we'd done it before. But that's another thing to say. Like, Beau was breech.
He was breech for 3 months.
Yeah. And we did birth ed. You went to the amazing David Vivian Jones, had 1 sacral adjustment, and he turned.
The next day.
The next day.
Amazing.
Yeah. And he stayed that way. But we still kept on doing, I think people need to really know that even once a breech baby turns, you've still got to do heaps of forward leaning inversions off the sofa and the shaking with the rebozo, everything to make sure that head's coming down in the easiest, narrowest possible way for you. Yeah.
And I think with people sitting at desks all the time and everyone's got bad posture and all the things that we should be doing better, if that is creating, I go to an osteo just for myself, for my own personal sort of health, and it's all just congestion in your body, and this is a time you want to be as sort of limber and as lined up and as you can be. And I've been trying to get you to go to an osteo for years, and then Nadine gave it the blessing, and then you've never looked back.
Look at how he worked, but he is quite magical.
I was amazed by that. I was starting to feel quite stressed about the baby being breech, and it was kind of, I was kept thinking about it, and it's sort of,
That was definitely a highlight. You felt like you'd won.
And then going to have that realignment, and then the next OB appointment with Dr. Morris, and then the baby had not only turned but fully engaged after. And that was quite, I think that was maybe 31 weeks or 30 weeks. It was quite early.
You couldn't get good photos of him anymore.
Yeah, we couldn't see him anymore on the scans.
That's so cute. So you got into the pre-labour zone. We're in the limbo with, like you say, conserving energy, trying to kick it off. And then you happened to have a few kind of anomalies in your labour. Things that I told you probably weren't going to happen actually happened. That happened in the smallest percentage of people. Firstly, you came early. Remember, we said 41 plus 3 or 5 days is the average due date. Secondly, after your second acupuncture, the water's popped right here on the sofa.
Like a balloon.
The balloon just burst. So what happened then? How did you feel? What was going on then?
I think I was so surprised that Beau came early, because everyone that I'd spoken to, everything that I'd read, first time mums,
80% go over.
You will go over. So when the pre-labour was happening, I'm thinking, are we going to be doing this? I was maybe 38, 37 weeks even when the pre-labour started. It's like, are we going to be doing this for the next month? Like, how long can this go on for? But then once that had sort of all started to happen, and then we got the acupuncture, and then my waters broke, I was like, oh my goodness, it's on. It was like a balloon had popped in my belly. That's what it felt like. And I was just so excited. I couldn't believe it. And also I wasn't expecting my waters to break.
No.
We'd have, you know, from everything that we'd learned through the course with you.
It was going to happen.
It was going to happen way later. The obstetrician, Dr. Morris, had said, "Oh, look, it's quite unlikely, but
10%
if
chance.
there's maybe a 10% chance of your waters breaking," but they did.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love it.